The wood carver here was not always a wood carver.
Apart from being our creator, in an earlier life, so to speak, he created some lovely photographic books. And if you want to know who labelled them lovely, I did. I, King Sigurd. The woodcarver, as it happens, is also named Sigurd. Sigurd Olivier. Now, let me get down from here. Lovely they were, and controversial too.
And no wonder, full of rubies. Ooh.
9 times he was dragged before the judges in South Africa, where he then lived, to defend his 2 books, Gentlewoman and Touch Love. After 7 separate verdicts concerning Gentlewoman, I can't honestly remember its present status, banned or unbanned. But Touch Love, I know, remained banned to this day. A piquant detail. One of the judges was the retired headmaster of the woodcarver's old alma mater. Yes, another piquant detail. Kathy, pictured here, is 1/8 Indigenous American. Her baby Sarah, 1/16. Enough for the apartheid government to have branded them non-white. While accompanying Kathy's husband, actor Leonard Whiting, on a poetry reading tour of South Africa, she and Sarah were moved by police to a separate room in their hotel because non-whites were not permitted to sleep in the same room as a white, albeit husband and father. Outside the racist and, paradoxically, Puritan apartheid regime, the books fared better. Gentlewoman was published in America by one of the big New York publishers. Touch Love appeared in 1982, 6 years after Gentlewoman. While the first book had been a eulogy to the femininity in women, the second entered far trickier territory, love-making itself. Now that, in a country which had legislated against nudity pure and simple, was tantamount to putting your head in the lion's mouth.
Tell them about the swimming pool rule. Pool rule.
Yes, another example of just how narrow-minded the country was. At the municipal swimming pool in the judicial capital, regulations forbade people of opposite sex to come within 30 centimeters of one another. The woodcarver, then the photographer, of course, knew he had not a
snowball's hope in hell.
Had not a snowball's hope of finding a publisher in South Africa for his pioneering work. South Africa, and most of the world he was to discover later, had heard of scientific sex, of medical sex, of pornographic sex, but not of poetic sex.
Why the phrase naughty and nice? I mean, just nice will do fine for me. Holy even. Sex is a sacrament, something spiritual. Yes, and there's another point, and this I must emphasize most.
Traces of the missionary there. Comes from the grandfather, mother's side. Now where was I? Oh yes. So not having the snowballs, he published the book himself. By using all the delaying tactics he could think of, he managed to keep selling Touch Love for 3 months before it was banned. But in those 3 short months, it was printed 3 times over, and most of the copies were sold by the time the judge's gavel came down. Although the photographer had the support of the poetess Jeanette Gorry and the professor of psychology, Len Holdstock, through their contributions to the book, still he felt ostracized and branded, and pretty much alone as he went off into the wide, wide world in search of new markets. First stop, Australia. Here it was that by a stroke of good luck, he came across the words of a very wise man from the East. Sex. Never repress it. Never be against it. Rather, go deep into it with great clarity, with great love. Go like an explorer. Search all the nooks and corners of your sexuality, and you will be surprised and enriched and benefited. Knowing your sexuality, one day you will stumble upon your spirituality. Then you will become free. The future will have a totally different vision of sex. It will be more fun, more joy, more friendship, more a play than a serious affair, as it has been in the past. Sex is just the beginning, not the end. But if you miss the beginning, you will miss the end also. Those are the words of Osho. Touch Love sold well in Australia, yet that small market would dry up soon. It was time to seek a bigger market.
America!
But it was not to be. Who would have thought that the US of A was as restrictive and Puritan, if not more so, than the South African apartheid regime had been? The woodcarver, photographer he was then, wrote to the 37 leading newspapers in America. Every city with 1 million inhabitants or more was represented, enclosing copies of his advertisements in all prominent Australian newspapers and magazines, and asking if this advertising would be accepted. Well, well, well. Of the 37 papers, 8 replied no in 2 short, sharp sentences, while the remaining 29, with their good, oldie-worldy Puritan values, did not have the manners even to reply.
What to expect from a world which thinks morality is something that dangles between your legs?
What was really surprising about this response, or lack of response, was that it came in the face of a glowing public recommendation from the world's leading psychologist, a founder of humanistic psychology, of client-centered therapy, and Nobel Peace Prize nominee, Carl Rogers. An American to boot, so no stranger to them. Here is what he wrote about Touch Love. In beautiful photographs and poetic words, this book celebrates the
Tender and delicate, and the strong and powerful aspects of sexual love. It is an appreciation of the wonder of loving flesh touching loving flesh. It is done with both sensitivity and passion. Those who have been put off by books on sexual techniques described in almost mechanical fashion will find here the richly sensuous beauty of our sexual nature. Touch Love makes a significant contribution to our living and loving.
Well, if it was not to be America, then let it be Europe. By the time the woodcarver had worked his way to the old world, mainly as cook and bottle washer, he was told at the Frankfurt Book Fair that he had published either 20 years too late or 20 years too early. His stand at the fair was designed as an altar, bedecked with photos of lovemaking, and inscribed with the words, "Sex is a sacrament." By a peculiar twist of fate, his exhibit was plumb in the middle of the American section.
I bet that gave them a cheap thrill.
Quite so. Though one American publisher did risk a second visit to the controversial stand, this time bringing 2 colleagues with him. This, he said, pointing to Touch Love, could be the next joy of sex. But, he said, it needs to be handled very, very carefully. Well, here I am, handling Touch Love very, very carefully. and bringing it to you through the liberating medium of internet, which was not available when the book was first published 20 years ago. 20 years ago. What you have seen so far have been, for the most part, photographs from gentlewomen. Now, it gives me great pleasure to present to you Touch Love, the movie.
Lights! Ready with your vice versa. Sound! Camera! Action!